Let me just get make sure that it's working on the YouTube. Okay, let's bring up the text. Hold on here. Let me see if it's working. Oh, here we go. Okay. We're going to be learning a talk from the Rebbe that the Rebbe spoke the first night of Rosh Chodesh Elul from the year 1989. This was the same. This was a talk that Rebbe spoke, like so that would be Thursday, Wednesday night, going into Thursday, the first night of Rosh Chodesh. So the Rebbe says like this: B'negeya l'chodesh Elul, with regard to the month of Elul, and we've been learning about this for the past few talks and Maimorim and the Torah, is shenimtzar manukveis b'paschala, say that we're just beginning now. Is Yadua HaMashal, is known the example Shel Admir Hazokin of the Alter Rebbe, Mashal and Melech. It's an example that we have to understand what are the revelations and what is expected from us in the month of Elul, based on the teachings of the Alter Rebbe and the Torah that we learned this past Sunday night. Of Mashal and Melech Shekoidim Bayali'ir, example of a king before the king comes to the city. Ya'itzin Anshe Ya'ir, the people of the city leave the city, Likrase, to go and greet him, Umakablim Parshas BaSadeh, to meet him in the field, to meet the king, i.e. in the field. And the Rebbe continues, V'oz, and there, then, Rashayin Kol Mish Reitz L'Hakol Panav, anyone who would like to, there's no restrictions, anyone who wants to go greet the king, V'hu Makabel Kulam, and he accepts everyone, he receives everyone, V'sever Panim Yafis, with a happy face, Panim Sheichakas, a radiant face, L'Kulam, that he shows to everyone. Umam Shechad Marazokin, and the Alter Rebbe continues, as the king continues his way, making his way from the field to his palace, who could walk in to the king now is only those who have permission. Rishayim means those who have a rishayon, like those who have an appointment or are allowed to come in. So the Rebbe says, V'yadua, it's known. We know what the Rebbe added, the Friedrich Rebbe added to the example of the Alter Rebbe. And the Rebbe mentions this again. We're teaching a class during the day of the Rebbe's Maimer from Tavshin Chavav 1926, which focuses exactly to explain the marshal, the example of king in the field. But the Rebbe points out over there, and he points out over here as well, that the Friedrich Rebbe added. So the idea is that seemingly that the king comes to the field, and then anyone who would like can, you could greet the king. You don't need an appointment. But that Friedrich Rebbe added one word, v'yachoylin, and you're enabled. It means you have the ability. You actually can do it. It's not like you just need it, like the restrictions are off. But you actually have the ability to do it. Shebezeh mudgash. What is the point that the Friedrich Rebbe is adding? Teichen Marshal. The whole point of the example should be a choilis kol echad legashes lemalach. It's not a concept that literally every single person has the ability to go and greet the king and to come over to the king. Legashes means to get closer and to start interacting. Koil gam, included in this, levakish mimenu kol avakashes, not just to say hello, how are you, and run away. But you actually could stop with the king and ask him all the questions that you have, and all the quests that you have, all the needs that you have. Bakashas is like everything that you're lacking, like you would ask Hashem in davening, like you do ask Hashem in davening for everything that you need. And here you're actually talking to the king in the field. You could ask him all your bakashas, whatever it is that you need. This is V'gam oisem, and even the bakashas that you have. Mekabel hamelech b'sever panim yafis. This is a big addition. You have sometimes people take advantage of a situation. So hey Aaron, you take it, you ask things and the king looks at you like, this is just casual king time. So let's just say hello and go further. No, the king sits in the field. Everyone has the ability, yecholim, to go and ask for all your bakashas, everything that you need from Hashem. And the bakashas themselves, these things that you're asking for, the king accepts them with the panim yafis, with a happy face. He's happy to hear what you need so he can help you. The kiven shekolim yoni HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Because what we know, the whole purpose, the whole being, so to say, in Yanim, what is God's purpose? What is God excited about? Everything God gives is charity. God defines what is the main mitzvah to give something, to give charity to something. What's God's whole point? What is God's inyan, so to say? What's God's idea? Who is He? Is b'sever pan miafis, has to be with this happy face. If everything God gives is a charity, God doesn't owe anyone anything. So God gives a charity to everyone, and He gives it. And we know that the law of giving tzedakah is you have to give tzedakah with a happy face. You're not supposed to give tzedakah with an angry face or a disappointed face, like you have to do it and you don't want to do it. You're supposed to make the ani, the person who's asking, not to feel intimidated, not to feel bad for bothering you, but you're accepting and receiving the person with grace. It makes the person comfortable that although they had to ask you for something, they don't have to feel bad about it. And that's a big part of the mitzvah of tzedakah, how you give tzedakah, not just what you're giving, but how you're giving. So that applies to God as well. It's not that everything He gives is tzedakah. But it's not just what He's giving, but how He's giving. And therefore He gives it b'sever panim yafos. And you're not supposed to be intimidated in the month of Elul to come to the Hashem, who's king in the field, and ask everything you need. Well, the Rebbe says so too. The person, how do you make a keli? A vessel that you should be able to receive, to go to the king and ask all your bakashas and receive from the king, from Hashem, with a happy face. And like it says in the Torah, you have to follow in God's ways. How does God do things? Compare yourself to Him. Try to emulate Him. Is the asik b'nyanin tzedakah? So you should also give tzedakah. If you want God to give you tzedakah and give it to you with a nice face, so how you can't give tzedakah with a mean face and an angry face and expect God to give a happy face to you. And now we're in that month. We enter the month where we could go to the king. We could ask Him everything we want. He gives us everything we want, and with a happy face. Moving, so it's surely understood that this is the month a person has to add in giving tzedakah, and giving tzedakah with the right attitude and give off the right impression when you give it. Even if you're feeling it and you're not showing it, try to make sure to show it. I mean, show it in the good way. But the Rebbe says, double up. Double down on your tzedakah you're giving. And therefore the Rebbe says, at this talk in 1989, on the first night of Rosh Chodesh, meaning it was like this year, it was Wednesday night, which is Thursday was Rosh Chodesh. So Wednesday night the Rebbe spoke. The Rebbe says, therefore the Rebbe is going to give everyone $2 notes, as opposed to $1 note, because to signify the idea of doubling the tzedakah when it comes to the month of Elul. V'yesh levar, the Rebbe continues, we could explain, Toichan HaMashal the Melech BaSadeh Sadeh Dafka. Again, there's so many talks and my moram to explain the example of Melech BaSadeh, because it's a big idea, it's a whole month, and it's the month of king in the field. So here the Rebbe is analyzing, why does the king have to go to the field specifically? The Rebbe says, Achilek bein ir anshe ir l'sadeh. What's the difference between a city and like it says, the people of the city and the field? Sha'ir hu makom moishav. Ir, the city is a place where people live. Moishav means a place where you rest. It means you settle, a settled place. Ir moishav. Ve'en tzarich achkach b'avoida miyuchedes lasis the makom moishav. You know, most people, right? You have a house. I mean, you could touch up your house. You could paint. You could fix things. But the basics are there. You have your house, you have your four walls, you have your rooms, you have your things. That you don't have to change things. It's ready. That's a place to live. It's not necessary every 5 minutes to think, how can I change my house? Some people are obsessed with that, but that's not necessarily how it has to be. Mashenkin sada. But that's the house. What about that's the city? What about the field? The field, she eretz many lechem. It's not just as is. It can't stay as is. The field is where the bread comes from. Why? Because that's where you plant things. You plant your wheat in the field. And if you don't plant your wheat, you're not going to have grains. And you're not going to have flour to make bread, which are the essentials of your food. Tali b'avodas adam, that's something you have to do. You have to make sure to work the field. You have to take a piece of land And by working it, plowing it, and planting it, and all the other parts that you have to do in the work of the field, makes it a field and a thing that's productive. It produces the grains, it produces fruits and vegetables, it produces the wheat. So just like that, it's just like there's a difference between a city and a field. A field it requires constant work. So too, beruchni, spiritually, in the avoda, there's a difference between a city and a field. Here, Yehudis, b'derech klal mukafas chaim. The Rebbe teaches us a thing, first of all. And this will be learning. We're learning now the Gemara Megillah. And we learn in other laws about walled cities, and it's this week's Parsha, Shoftim v'Shoftim titen lecha, right? If you have gates, you have walls. You don't have walls without gates, right? So a Jewish city should be a walled city. That's why Jerusalem's a walled city. We talk about the walls. We talk about the walls of Yerushalayim, because walls is the definition of a Jewish city. Why? Why is it important to have a walled city? Because that signifies ala shmira minyanim bilti ritzoyim. Why do you have a wall? You have a wall to keep out bad influences, bad things, right? Why does a city officially have a wall? To keep out the enemy, to keep the people in the city safe. Last night we had our Parsha class for the Chabad Minyan. So our friend Joel, who has a house and a boat. So I said, "How are you safe in the boat?" He parks his boat on the lake. She says, because it's a gated area. You can't go in. You can't get to the boat without protection. So that's the idea. The idea is the city that has a wall has protection, keeps out bad influences. But the field, the field is not like that. The field is vulnerable, right? It's vulnerable from all kind of influences, animals, different ideas, different peoples, and you have to put special efforts and labor in the field. You have to constantly be aware, never get off your game and fall asleep at the wheel when it comes to the field, because very fast the field become a place that's a field is constantly vulnerable, and very fast it become a place of negativity. Like it says that, what do we know about the field? Like we read in next week's the Parsha. In Parshas Shoftim, say about the girl who was lost in the field, and she gets molested. When are you vulnerable to molestation? In the field. Let's just see what the Rebbe is talking about over here. Could be something happened at that time. The Rebbe is talking specifically about things I don't even mention about, of vulnerabilities in the field. V'nimsa. Turns out, turns out that in this example that we said about Elul, that the king goes to the field, a place that we just said that's extremely vulnerable, requires a lot of effort, both in protection of the field and that it should produce. So you have double effort. While you're working on making the field a place of production, you also have to have in mind that there has to be protection. So that's the point of saying that the king goes out to the field. The king doesn't only want to go to a place where he feels comfortable. The king is ready to go to vulnerable places, like the field. That there's not just people from the city that leave the city, go to the field, but there's the people of the field that live in the field, that hang out in the field. That's their place, people of the field. So the people of the field, not only are they vulnerable, but they're also kind of, on the line of being influenced by the field. The Rebbe says sometimes people of this city leave the city and they go to the field. Also, when's the king meet them? He meets everyone in the field, the place of vulnerability. You have to go according to the custom of things. Everyone's wearing clothing of the field to blend in to the atmosphere of the field. What does that mean for the Jewish people? When a person encloses themselves to be part of the society of this world. We're not talking about individuals on an individual basis. They're always talking about, what does it mean that the people of the city, a Jewish person belongs in a city, but you have to go out to the field. That's your place of parnasa. That's your place of livelihood. And when you go out to the field, you look like a person of the field. Of course, you have the uniquenesses of a Jew, but in general, you have that kind of mindset of a field person. And that's a place of vulnerability. The Rebbe says, I don't have to talk, I don't have to elaborate on something that's simple, right? So when you're in the base medrash, you're in the base medrash. When you go out to the world, sometimes, you take your yarmulke. Maybe you don't want people to know that you're Jewish. The Rebbe says that since we're coming from the 15th of the month of Av, right? So the Rosh Chodesh is the end of the month. We're in the middle of the month is the 15th of Av. We know it's a big holiday. We can connect this idea with the 15th of Av. What's the connection with this to the 15th of Av? When the moon is complete, the Jewish people are counted like the moon. We have a cycle like the moon. So too. So we know that we have our completions and we have our small. We just now went into the new month, right? So last night, Wednesday night, when it was the new month and the moon was at its smallest, on top of that we had an eclipse, right? It's a double darkness, Aster, and a double darkness. So the Jewish people like the moon, and we have our ups, we have our completions, and we have our smallness. This is brought down in the teachings of Chassidus, i.e. the Maimarim. What's the greatness of the 15th of the month of Av? The completion, the elevation that comes after the descent of Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is the lowest point of our year, right? The destruction of the temple twice, and all the other negative things that happened on Tisha B'Av. And how do we fix that? How do we turn that around in a V shape? Is we get to the 15th of Av. That's 5-6 days after Tisha B'Av. As the Zohar teaches, Al Pasuk Yisro Eretz B'Cholhi, that what does it mean that there's a benefit of Yisro Eretz? That there's a benefit of the land, of working the land. Like it says, Melech BaSadeh Navad. That when it says that it says Yisro Eretz B'Choli, Melech BaSadeh Navad. The king is subjugated to the field. So what does it mean the king is subjugated to the field? Shaidei Aridah Shamelech HaKadosh Baruch Hu BaSadeh Delumazeh Kipirish B'Zel Griyusa Naasa Ba'achach Chaliyah Dam Shachas HaMelech BaSadeh Dekdusha Beis Hamikdash. That the king goes down to the field. And the king goes down to the field because the field's a negative place. But when you go down to the field in the negative place, which is like what Tisha B'Av is, the 9th of Av is, so then afterwards comes an elevation that the king transforms the field to make it a holy place, which is the idea of the positive of the field. Because the field is a place of production. Also a place of Esav. And that's why it says that Melech BaSadeh Navad, it's brought down many times, the king is subjugated to the field, that the king can't just live in his city. The king needs the field feeds the king. The field feeds the city. So both the good and the bad. There's the field, the way it's negative, it's a dangerous place, a vulnerable place, but at the same time the field is a place of production. Without a field you have nothing. So the king could influence the field, and the king gets influenced by the field. What does it mean that the king is subjugated to the field? The Mayusa, what does it mean in a positive way? That's the idea of king in the field. And the Rebbe says this idea that king's in the field, it means he goes out and he makes the people in the field be able to change and do tshuva and makes himself available even in the field. Starts, the Rebbe says, from the first day of Elul. You don't have to wait till means Lamid Av, you don't have to wait till Aleph Elul, because there's 2 days of Chodesh. Even Sha'az Belamid Menachem Av, Beis Pa'amim Tesvav, 2 times 15, Nasa Shlemus La'aliyah B'Chodesh Menachem Av, Heicha Mitesvav Av. By the first 15th, we had a completion to fix Tisha B'Av. Another 15 days later is the 30th day, 2 times 15. After the descent of Tisha B'Av. And it's also called Rosh Chodesh. So there's the positive of the 30th of Av, which starts with the king in the field, to strengthen even a situation where a person's in the field, that we could change ourselves. The idea is not just that God makes himself available in the field, but it also empowers us to transform the negative of the field. It's not just when you go out to the field. There's 2 ways you go to a field. There's the way a chassid goes to a field, and there's the way someone who may not be a chassid yet goes to the field. A person who's not a chassid who goes to the field and says, how do I protect myself
from the field. It's not my job to change the field. I don't want to be influenced by the field. But the Rebbe says, no, it's not enough. You have to go and change the field. Make the field, stop allowing the field to be a place of vulnerability or a place of negativity. Who says Esav has to say, even though it says Esav Isha Sada, change that. You don't have to subscribe to that it's Esav's field, and I have to just make sure that I don't get influenced by Esav. Transform Esav, transform the field of Esav. But later, Shmir Vazahir is not just to be protected, but to be mishapich, to transform it. Okay, Mudgish b'miyuchad ba'aliyah the Tesvav Vav. That's what Tesvav the 15th Vav is. And the completion of the 15th, 2 times 15th, is the 30th of Elul. Shetzmuras hayirida the Tzia and Sada Tichoresh. What is one of the descriptions of the destruction of the temple? Is that Zion is going to be plowed like a field, and the rabbis witnessed that. Right, one of the Roman emperors plowed the Temple Mount. So plowing the field. This is the holy Beis HaMikdash, and the Makam HaMikdash, like a field, to show who is the Roman. The Roman is Esav, to show that Esav has ownership of that space. What did the Roman emperor mean by that? The Roman emperor meant to say that there's Yaakov and Esav, and now it's Esav. Esav is going to plow your holy place. I'm going to turn it to my place, which is the field of Rome, the field of Esav. Tichar shenasis charisha bebeis hamikdash. They plowed the Temple Mount. Nasas, and we turn that around. Nasas ali b'matzav asada shetisgala by Melech. So you know what Yaakov turns back to Esav? I'm going to flip that on you. It's Esav's field. We're going to go to your field. We're going to go to your place of comfort, where Esav feels that he owns that space, as the field is, and transform your field. The king is going to go to your place. We're not intimidated. We don't run away. Melech BaSadeh nevad. The king goes out and he works the field. I'm so involved in your field that I'm meshubed. I'm subjugated to your field. That's what makes me tick. Is to transform your field. You're not intimidated by Esav. You jump, you double down and turn it into opportunity. V'yesh the kasha. The Rebbe says we could add this. In Parshas Shoftim, this idea that the field has kind of 2 sides to it. They have the field that's negative, you have to be protected, and you have the field that the idea that we could transform the field, and the king is subjugated to the field. The field becomes our fuel. We're not intimidated by when we see Esav plowing our field. He said, you want to make our Beis HaMikdash a field? We're going to show you how the field itself is a positive place. And that's connected to this week's Parshas Shoftim. Parshas Shoftim, Shatzchalos Shoftim, Shortim, titen lecha b'chosharech. It says in the beginning of the parsha that we should take judges and enforcers, police, and put them at all your gates. From here we see clearly a city should have walls, and walls have gates, doors. As the commentaries teach us, what is the inner gates that we're referring to? The 7 gates of a person. So if we're looking at it, the 7 gates of the person on the face, you have 2 eyes, 2 ears, is 4, 2 nostrils, and the mouth, right? So that's 7, 2, 4, 6, that's 7 gates. So the 7 gates of the person. You can look at the gates in other ways, as everyone can imagine. So either way, what are these gates? The gates, these are places of interaction. Right? You see the world. You listen to what people are saying. You're smelling what's going on. You're talking to people. You're taking in food from the world. So you're taking in breaths from the world. So everything, the openings of a person's face are ways you interact with the world. The outside world it could be influencing you. You're taking in from the outside world and you're giving to the outside. Like the field. Field's a place of engagement. A person has to look at the gates of the person. And there's 2 ways to approach it. Both of them are necessary. Shoftim v'shotim. You have to have judges and you have to have enforcers, police. L'chol Rosh, what's the meaning? Initially, the first approach is livchan u'v'limtzei mad nidrish hu lasei shoftim. What does shofet mean? Shofet is a judge. You have to judge every situation that you encounter in the world, whether it is daily, your daily routine, going to work, or things that come once in a while, and judge it to know what do I as an individual What am I meant to do in this situation? What's expected from me in this situation? It means don't just run into things. Use your judgment. Because in all your openings to the outside world, always judge and see the situation, what's happening now, and what am I supposed to be doing now? Don't just say, well, I just followed, I'm just going along with whatever I see. My eyes are just leading, guiding me. Have a mental judgment to know what's going on and to evaluate the situation. And once a person recognizes how every situation, what are you supposed to be doing in this situation as a Yid, as a Jew? So now you have to have the enforcers to make sure, not allow for any obstacles to get into the way, or any delays that get into the way that don't allow you to achieve what you see clearly you have to achieve now. The shofar tells you this is what I have to do. The shoter, the enforcer, makes sure that no obstacles and no delays are gonna get into the way, or if they do, you're going to deal with it to be able to continue to do what you have to do in this situation. The Rebbe adds, even though the parsha has many laws and ideas that are discussed in the parsha, there's a lot of lessons we can take from the parsha. But this idea of having judges and enforcers at our openings, at our places of communication, is something that's a general idea that's inclusive of everything we have to do in this world. As a person can't be isolated, you can't lock yourself up. The idea is to engage in the world, but you have to have the idea of a judgment, and enforcers to make sure that how you're going to engage, or how the world is going to engage with you, is going to be in a productive way. The Rebbe applies to father and the mother. How they deal with their children, or how siblings interact, how older siblings educate and guide the younger siblings. Don't just go with the flow, have a strategy. Shofet is you have a strategy. You're parents, how are you going to educate your children? Do you have a plan? And what are you going to do once you have that plan? You're a shofet. You realize how you would like to educate your children. You have to have the shoter to make sure that don't let things get in the way of what you feel and understand is the right way to educate your children. And the Rebbe adds to that. Don't overwhelm your children. You have to remember that your children are children. And part of being a good father and a good mother is that's part of your evaluation, not just to see, in theory, what you would want your children to achieve, but knowing their abilities and knowing their limitations and acting accordingly. So being good parents in all dimensions. The Rebbe says you have to know where they're holding, what level the children are. Don't overwhelm your children either. By day, a person goes into the world with such an attitude. That's what it means. The Rebbe spoke many times, the idea of Machta Eretz Yisrael. There's a story that the Chassid Tzemach Tzedek told the Tzemach Tzedek he wants to go to Eretz Yisrael. So the Tzemach Tzedek said, Machta Eretz Yisrael. Make Eretz Yisrael here. What does that mean? You don't have to run away from something. Eretz Yisrael is an idea. Make this a place for Jewish people. When you take your children to Jewish education, when you build a Jewish home, that's making Eretz Yisrael here, where you are, whether it is in the United States or Europe or what have you, or Eretz Yisrael the way it is today. Where's the law that says you have to have judges and enforcers? On your land, Eretz Yisrael. So what does it mean? The person says, well, that's when I'm in Eretz Yisrael. I'm not in Eretz Yisrael now. Mach Eretz Yisrael. Make this Eretz Yisrael. Even though, of course, it's applicable also outside of Eretz Yisrael. So too when it comes spiritually. Let's say you're not holding yet the level that you made your reality, no matter where you are, into Eretz Yisrael. You're still in the mindset of a Chutz La'aretz Jew. You're a field person. Like we said, a Jewish city is a walled city. That's an Eretz Yisrael city. So you're not in the mindset of Eretz Yisrael. You're still influenced by the Sadeh. It still doesn't negate your responsibility as a parent to put up Even if you're still in the field and under the influence of the field, you dress like a field person. You feel like you're living in the field. You don't feel like Mach Eretz Yisrael. But that you can't say, therefore, I have no responsibility for my children's Jewish education. This idea that person has to put gates by the gates, you have to have judges and you have to have judgment and enforcement. This applies to both our thought. Hold on, Aaron. Speech and action. The full avoda is in everything that we do, both how we think. We have to have judgment in what we think about, what we speak about, protect both, all the three garments of the person. The afsha maisu, even though at the end they say it all comes down to action. How you act also has to be how you think. And think in a guarded way, in a protected way, and manage your thinking. It's guard your speech. You want that your garments should all be complete. Yes, Aaron.
What's the field garments?
The field garments is when you go out on a hike, are you going to wear your nice tuxedo on a hike and your dress shoes?
No.
Okay, so that's field.
But then my question is, if we're supposed to be, are we supposed to be in the field clothes every day, or just while we're in the field? Because I'm not in the field.
He's saying that's the point. The point is that a lot of times we go out spiritually to the field the 6 days of the week, right? Shabbos, you get in your Shabbos clothes and you're hanging out in shul, you're hanging out amongst the Yiddishkeit. But you have to be aware that most of the time you're in the field. But the field has many layers in it. There's being out there in the field, like the Rebbe says, conquer the field. Esav plows the field. You're going to turn that field into Nevad. You're going to be Melech BaSadeh. You're going to be a king in the field. And then you have sometimes where you're influenced by the field. Wearing spiritual clothes of the field and feeling you belong in the field is a person who says, that's how I dress. I'm a cowboy. So what do cowboys do? That's what I do. That's how I live. What guides them is what guides me. That's what I want to be. I want to hang out there. What do? They sit around the bonfire and they smoke cigarettes. That's what I want to do spiritually. I mean, you're a person that lives that's what matters to you. Going to the ball game, doing the things that the field people, that the Gentile does. Okay, of course I'm going to make a bracha when I eat. I'm going to have a kosher sandwich. But what excites me, my world is the world of the field. I have the Torah is going to tell me specifically what I could do. How could I be a Jew when I'm on the field? Not how I could influence as a Jew, influence the field. So Rebbe says that still you have responsibilities. You can't just say, well, if I'm in the field, I live out in America and I do it. So I keep kosher when I can, whatever. I'm sending my kids to public school because that's what people do in America. So you have to understand you have responsibilities. So there's many layers of how a person has to be guarded, and how do you transform the field, and how you not allow the field to become your place of influence. V'gimel levushim nefesh, and the three garments that the person has, this idea they have to guard both your thought, speech, and action. In the Shema, we talk about that our love for Hashem has to be with all our heart, all our soul, and all our might, all our being. What does it mean with all our heart? How your heart feels. What's nefesh? Nefesh hamadeber is how your speech is. My soul went out in my speech. I expressed myself. One of the Rashi says, what does it mean to give all your might to God? Give all your money to God. It means that you earn monies for Yiddishkeit. Tzedakah, building a Jewish home, making Shabbos. That's action. A Jew has a chelik, a portion, our lot, and our inheritance of Yiddishkeit. That all those three levels have to be penetrated with idea of being a proud Jew. We can understand this. The Rambam writes as follows. When he talks about the uniqueness of the tribe of Levi, of the Levi, the job of the Levi I'm a Levite, to serve God. To show and be guiding the ways of Torah. You have to show the ways of the righteous. A Levi is a person that's supposed to be always, like it says, Yoru Mishpatecha Yaakov v'Taraskal Yisrael. That's a pasuk that says about Levi. Levi has to give Hayra, has to give guidance of the Torah mitzvahs to the Jewish people. That was what the tribe of Levi was. So the Rambam writes after he describes the job of the tribe of Levi. The person who can say, well, I'm not a Levite, it has nothing to do with me. So the Rambam says, no. It doesn't just apply to the tribe of Levi. Any person, no matter where you come from, you want to donate, you want to become like a Levite. Doesn't mean you could steal my aliyah, but you could do all the work. Do you want to give ruchai oisei ve'vinoi madai liibadol amid lifnei Hashem, that you could stand and serve Hashem? You could be a servant like the Levi. You could sanctify yourself with the Holy of Holiness, and God becomes your portion. You could commit yourself to the work of the Levi, even if you're not a physical Levi. King David said, Hashem benas chalki, God is my portion. Because and my jug, my cup. You're my lot. So every Jew, the Rambam says, a person could say, I'm going to live a life of a Levite. He mentions all three: our portion, our lot, and our inheritance. It means a person can commit thought, speech, and action to Hashem. This is talking about to speak. Is talking about Maisa. So here the Rebbe says that a person can commit not just their thinking and speech, but their action, everything to Hashem. The Rebbe says, the focus over here is the lot of a Jewish person. We know that there's different means. What the Rebbe is going in over here is going into there's different levels of our connection to Hashem. We say Torah, we say Ashreinu Matov Chalkeinu. We have a portion in Judaism and Torah. We have an inheritance, and we have a Geulah. Geulah is like Purim. It's a Geulah, it's a lot. It shows a supernatural connection. You don't know how the lot's going to draw, but nevertheless, this is our drawing, which is an amazing. When you talk about the relationship a Jewish person has with godliness, so you say, this is my portion, okay, this is what I have. You say, this is my inheritance, this is where I come from. I'm a Jewish person. My father was Jewish. My mother was Jewish. I come from the Jewish people. That's my inheritance. You say, this is my lot, a Geulah. A Geulah is very vulnerable. Who knows what the lot's going to draw? But the lot's going to draw because that's who you are. That's the essence. And the essence expresses itself in a place that doesn't have to be that way, but nevertheless it always is that way. So the Rebbe says that that's connected to the Avodah of Yom Kippur, the highest of days, Chodesh HaKadoshim, that the high priest would draw the lots about which goat is sacrificed and which goat gets thrown down the Azazah. Surely not Geulah Shebenefesh, Yechidah Shebenefesh, and that's the essence of the soul. Achas Shebeshana means a person is you have to understand the risk. Right? When a person says, I'm going to roll the dice, right? Let's roll the dice. I don't know how it's going to be, but I'm ready to take the risk. That's if you don't have any essential connection. But when the lot is so connected, when you're so connected, essentially, the essence of your soul, that even the lot's always going to be the right lot. That's how they divided the land. But the person may say that's the high priest, so has such a high awareness that even the lot, even the thing that's untouchable, is visually connected to God. But that's the high priest. What's that have to do with me? The Rambam says no. It's not just the Levites. And the Rebbe is saying the Levites doesn't just mean to the general tribe, but even the highest of the Levites, because a Kohen is a Levite, right? Aaron was a Levite. But every single Jew, if you just give yourself over, I said, you could become sanctified, like the Holy of Holies, like the Rambam says, like the high priest on Yom Kippur. To dominate your thought, speech, and action. Because you could reveal the lot that's beyond nature, the essence of your soul in everything that you do, not just in that it exists deep inside of you, but it permeates your thought, speech, and action. These three ideas of our lot, our portion, our lot, and our inheritance, this affects a person every day. As we say it every day. It's part of our davening. And we say it because everyone is affected, and it can become part of your reality even the highest level of your connection to Hashem, which is almost like a lot, which is vulnerable. Who knows what you're going to draw? The draw. It's yours. This is my portion, my lot, my inheritance. Every person could say that. The whole idea is we should bring everything down to action. When it comes down, of course, our thoughts have to be right, our speech has to be right. But the thing, and we live in a world of action, which means you have to go out there. You can't just think, I'm connected to the king. You can't just speak about being connected to the king. Go out there and be connected to the king. Do it. Get active. Go out to the field. Go put on tefillin with people. What does it mean to stand on the street and ask women if they want light Shabbos candles? That's Melech BaSadeh, right? Where are you standing? You're standing in the field and you're acting. You're not giving drushes. You're standing there and saying, excuse me, young lady, would you like to take candles to light Shabbos? Excuse me, sir, would you like to put on tefillin? And all types of things that you could do. Be active in the field. So Aaron says, what, do I have to get into my kapata and put on my gartel? Do I have to put on my Shabbos suit? No. You could be wearing your Sadeh clothing, your hiking gear, and be an obvious Jew. And be active as a Jew. You can have your baseball cap. You could be at the ball game. And there you're with the king. And you're a representative of the king in the field. But the idea is not to stay like that. The idea is we have to go back to the city. We follow the king into the city, into the places of holiness. That's the month of Tishrei. Everyone gets elevated, of course, on the month of Tishrei. Like we get more refined. Till we're standing on Yom Kippur, where we reveal our essence of our soul. We're not camouflaged in the clothing of the field. And the Rebbe says, may it be God's will. We're not just talking, but it should awaken action. We should see clearly how the king is subjugated and how the king rules the field. This is God's field. We're not intimidated by the field. The Melech goes out to the field and says, this is mine as well. A Yid goes out to the field and says, this is Jewish field. Including the righteous King Mashiach Tzedakah. We should go immediately with the Mashiach to the Holy Land. We should come to here, where I'm sitting right now, to the city of Jerusalem. Because Jerusalem doesn't belong to a specific tribe. It's international space, international Jewish-wise. And Jerusalem is specifically connected to the tribe of Levi. And we have to know, before we go to the city, you go through the fields. The fact is, most cities, or all cities, are surrounded by fields. And even for each tribe to get to their field, that they're able to sit comfortably, they have to go to their field. And there's going to be places where the tribe of Levi are going to have portions, not as ownership, but cities that are given to the tribes of Levi. There's going to be a gate for Levi. Chelik Hayud Gimel, the 13th portion. First, everyone's going to go eventually to their specific places. But first, we're going to all gather, the Rebbe says, in Yerushalayim. So the Rebbe says, this is the Seder. By Farbrengen, they used to announce, the Seder V'Zayin Azay. This is how it's going to be. Mashiach is going to come. This is how it's going to go down. Mashiach is going to come. He's going to bring us all to Jerusalem. That's the international space. And then every person, including the tribe of Levi, everyone's going to go to their individual place. Everyone has a portion where they belong in the Eretz Yisrael as their tribe, they're a type of avodah. But first, the Rebbe says everyone comes to Jerusalem. And as we said, everyone's connected to the tribe of Levi. Everyone's going to have a portion of the 13th portion, because everyone has the ability to be like a Levite. The Rebbe said that's when Mashiach comes. But even now, as we are in the diaspora, Oidif nation is Nesiim v'Ofim l'Eretz HaKodesh. Nach Eder mivet Ariberflegen, before we fly over, because we're going to fly to Jerusalem. Yeshua his damnus the kaimus hashayftim shaytim titlecha. We don't have to wait till then to put up guards and judges at the gates. We have to have inner guards and inner judges in our inner places, like we said before. In all our limbs and all our arteries. That's applicable to all times. We don't have to wait for Mashiach to say, then I'm going to get active, then I'm going to make the right judgment calls in my life. Then I'm going to put my kids into yeshiva. As it says, one of the signs of the Mashiach is that God is going to return the judges as they once were. And all the gates, and all the gates of the tribes in Eretz Yisrael. As the land will be divided in the comings of Mashiach, as it's brought down in the prophecy of Yecheskel. We're going to have the gates of Jerusalem, the gates of the sanctuary. There's going to be, as described, many gates in the temple. There's an argument, going to be 5, 7, 8, or 13 gates. The Rebbe adds, the righteous King Mashiach, which is David Malka Mashiach, David, the King Mashiach, the Sanhedrin, that it's brought down that the Sanhedrin sits at the gates. It's connected to Mashiach, to David. Why? It's brought down in the Medrash about David's sleeping patterns. He had odd sleeping patterns. He never slept. David slept little half hours for 4 hours a night, or two. He slept for 2 hours a night, and he would wake up. He had a magical alarm clock before electricity. He had a harp that when the wind turned at midnight, it woke him up. And what does David do when he wakes up? He starts learning Torah. David learned Torah. It says Kivan Shalom the Shachar. After he learned Torah until the daybreak. When the day broke, Nichnasu Chacham Yisrael. The teachers, the wise people of Israel, entered David's chambers. Amr lo Adonenu HaMelech, our master, our king. Amcha Yisrael tzrichim parnasa. You're sitting, you're learning a whole night. The Jewish people need parnasa. They need livelihood. Amr lahem l'chu pshuti etchem gedud. Go get the regiments ready. Miyad v'nimlachim b'Sanhedrin. They didn't know what to do, so they went to Achitophel. They went and conquered another land. And he let David let the Sanhedrin tell them, guide them what they're supposed to be doing. The Rebbe says that all the blessings and for all times are mentioned in are connected to the tractate of brachas, because brachas means a blessing, including the Rebbe says the Rebbe wants to bless everyone now. And the Rebbe said this in 1989, but he's saying it now as we're learning. Everyone wants to bless everyone with parnasa, with livelihood. Including the blessing. Hashem oiz lamit, and God gives strength to His people. Hashem yivarchas amei b'shalom, He blesses His people with peace. Surely, God is going to give peace in the land in Eretz Yisrael. Now the Rebbe says, I'm making everyone a messenger for charity. That itself will bring the redemption closer. And speed up the redemption. Specifically, the Rebbe says we should give double tzedakah today. And that brings a Yeshua. That the Tashia means for a salvation. With the Geulah mitzvah Hashem is what's the true salvation is with the coming of the Mashiach. And all those who've passed away will come back to life with the resurrection of the dead. We all come to Eretz Yisrael. Everyone takes their money. Don't worry. When it comes to times of Mashiach, you're not going to be like, you can take your bank accounts, and those who don't have bank accounts, God's going to give them full bank accounts. Calling unitary mitzvahs also means our efforts, all the mitzvahs that we did. And our thoughts, speech, and action. We receive all the blessings. The greatest and deepest blessing, the blessing of the Geulah mitzvah Hashem, of the true redemption that should be taken from Yad Mamish. Thank you all for joining us. A beautiful talk that the Rebbe spoke on the night of Rosh Chodesh Elul 1989. May all the blessings be appoint right now, and of course the lessons are applicable as we sit right now. Laila Tov, everyone. Good Chodesh and good Shabbos. Take care.